You might have heard in our news that a Tweed shopping centre has decided not to go ahead with a trial that saw hooded sweatshirts and hats banned from the complex on Thursday nights. The ban was initiated because it was felt that shoplifters and vandals were covering their heads to avoid identification by security cameras. The centre says the trial was stopped because it wasn't practical, but it's making no further comment. What do you think of the idea? Is it a sensible measure? Or do retailers have no right to tell people what they can or cannot wear? 1300 65 999 is the number if you'd like to have your say, or you can SMS Bruce to 199 22 684. I'm joined now by a representative from the Queensland Retail Traders Association, Scott Driscoll. I understand you were quite surprised by this decision to terminate the trial.
Yes, Bruce, we were. Look, I was all for this, and I think many, many other shopping centres right around the country really should adopt it. I mean, we've got members throughout Queensland, New South Wales and many of the other states who suffer at the hands of what is a $1 billion scourge of shoplifting. Those costs are obviously passed on to consumers, and they're the people that suffer. So any move to sort of stem that or stem violence in shopping centres at late nights, we saw as a very positive thing.
As far as you know, have any other shopping centres tried to do this sort of thing?
Yes, look, some have. Throughout the country we're aware of others. I probably don't want to name them because they may get the same sort of wind up them that this particular one seems to have. I've spoken to the centre managers of the Tweed Shopping Centre, and they've indicated to me that basically it was a 2-week trial of late night Thursday, and look, that everyone realises that means it's about 5 or 6 hours worth of trial. I don't think that's enough. I think there's clear and very, very strong anecdotal evidence that where people know that they're being monitored, they behave themselves, and particularly if there's an obvious reason to bring about a trial like this, if you've got youth crime issues or shoplifting or violence, then clearly a move like this should have been continued for the long term, I believe.
Now, the centre put out a very brief statement yesterday just saying it was discontinuing the trial because it hadn't proved practical. Were you able to read between the lines as it was and work out maybe what caused that reaction?
Look, as you say, they've made only very brief statements, and I've had a short chat with them yesterday myself. I don't think it's conclusive. My fear is that perhaps there are some fringe-dwelling civil libertarian type people that may have put some undue pressure on this, and quite frankly, my comment yesterday in the media was they should have been told to go and get stuffed, because frankly, I think the interests of the greater community, the 99% of people out there that want to have a safe environment where they're shopping, want to make sure that their prices aren't being forced up due to the vast numbers in shoplifting dollars that are pushing those prices up by the very small minority, really should have seen this sort of thing go on and adopted by other centres.
Now, hoodies and hats are a very big part of youth fashion at the moment. Do you think that they were worried that they were perhaps throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and turning away potential customers that had no intentions of causing any trouble?
Well, if they are, they shouldn't have been. Quite frankly, these are garments that can be, have the hood flicked back when they're inside. I mean, you don't have to go back too many years where it would have just been the polite, well-mannered thing not to wear these things on your head when you're walking through a shopping centre. But quite frankly, if it's for the good of the safety of 99% of patrons, and also to keep the shoplifting at bay, that's a good move. And frankly, the people that would have been wearing these things without the intention of doing anything wrong, I'd say I'm sorry. But look, there's a very concerted and pretty ugly element out there that we have to take account of.
Now, there are similar measures that are imposed in, service stations, I think, banks, post offices, certainly as applies to motorcycle helmets, aren't there?
Absolutely. You go into any of those locations and there'll be a sign at the entry point requiring people to remove those type of garments. So, shopping centres and retailers that take that sort of move and direction are really not out of step at all, and it is in the best interest of safety that they do it. So long as it is displayed at every entry point as a condition of entry, that's fine.
Do you think there's a potential problem, though? We could find perhaps the same sort of thing applied to burqas, the headwear that female Muslims wear.
Bruce, I don't think that sort of speculation is necessarily going to be helpful in this area. I think what we're looking at is a very defined use of shading people from cameras and security systems. Now, if you see on the news clips anytime you see people getting that live coverage of holding up a petrol station or holding up whatever, quite often these hoodies are actually what's being used to shield them from cameras. So I think it's a very specific attempt to deal with a very specific tool that can be used by a small element of society. And unfortunately, some other people are going to actually have to flip that thing back off their head if they go into a shopping centre that requires it. I don't think that's too much of a sacrifice to make. These things are climate controlled. You're not going to freeze your ears off. And, get with the rest of society and make sure we make it a bit safer for everyone.
Well, Scott Driscoll, there's always strength in numbers, and you are with the Queensland Retail Traders Association. Do you think perhaps at some time in the future we could see the entire sector banding together rather than one particular complex going one out and introducing these kind of measures on a far broader base?
Well, Bruce, I've got to sort of point out we were the Queensland Retail Traders Association. We're now the Retailers Association. We've got thousands of members Australia-wide, as I say, throughout Queensland, New South Wales and the other states. So we're actually communicating to our members throughout the country that, this is a good thing to do, whether you're in a centre, whether you're in an individual shop. If shoplifting is an issue for you, take this sort of evasive action and take measures required to make people in your store or in your centre feel safe, protected, and to protect that bottom line so you don't have to be passing on what would otherwise be unnecessary costs to your consumers, which doesn't benefit anyone other than the people that are pilfering.
That's an interesting point that you raise. You say the costs of shoplifting and vandalism are passed on to consumers, obviously in higher prices. Any idea what sort of percentage we'd be talking about here?
Well, Bruce, I can tell you right now that the cost in sheer dollars in this country is around $1 billion per year to shop owners from shoplifting. So all of that is picked up and put back on to the price that you and I have to go in and pay. So I think that's outright, nonsense if we can do something as simple as this to prevent that and put a stop to those sort of rising prices. So, I think you weigh up, flick back a hood when you're in a shopping centre versus save $1 billion for the country's consumers. Pretty obvious to me.
Scott Driscoll, it's a fascinating issue. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bruce.
That was Scott Driscoll from the Retail Traders Association.